There you go.
That's us.
So, folks, we're here to discuss the Christy Ring Cup Final. It's been a strange year, 2020. Two former Kildare hurlers and a man that's been at the edge of the microphone for all of the Christy Ring for Down, Conor Watson. First of all, we'll go across to Tom. Tom, it's been a strange year for Kildare.
Yeah, I suppose originally with Kildare to play Offaly in the first fixture, and it's supposed to be knockout when it came on stream. I suppose after the first lockdown, everyone was saying, "Geez, that's a disaster for Kildare. Offaly would probably beat them and they're gone." But the way it worked out, it changed after with the GA, and everyone was getting a second chance, and then Kildare didn't get to play Offaly. So I think that worked out well for them. And there's a good pep in their step there in the last few games, and I think they're confident. Nothing between them in the last layering down the last few years, and hopefully this year to turn up and give a performance on Sunday.
Yeah. Conor, Down hasn't been beyond the county borders so far. Will Croke Park cause any difference for them?
No, well, I suppose they've been lucky enough now. The way the competition panned out as well. Original draw had Down against London, which can be a hairy enough fixture any year. You just don't know how that's going to work out. But that game didn't take place, and they had a home draw against Derry and Ballycran, and obviously a home semi-final then against Offaly. So, no, look, Croke Park's on Sunday, sure. They were there last year for the final as well, and sure there'll not be one of them looking forward. There'll not be one not looking forward to heading for Dublin on Sunday morning. So I'm sure they're all. It shouldn't have any fears for them now. 90% of the team in panel were there last year and played, albeit they suffered a defeat against Meath, but they should. I would imagine they're all looking forward and ready to rock and roll on Sunday.
Adrian, Kildare had a handy enough win against Roscommon. You were part of some of them Kildare teams that had run-ins with Down in the past few years. What would your thoughts be?
I still have the aches and pains from all them experiences. That's my first thought. Listen, lads, it's a final, and you know yourself, anything can happen. As you said yourself, it's a strange year for everyone, I suppose, involved in sport. But the worry I'd have, I suppose, is the fact that we got no match really in the semi-final. I think lads are going to go in here a little bit complacent. I would have preferred to come out of a match that like Down had and fall over the line, albeit on penalties and whatever. But they got a right test there against Offaly, and they're going to be battled hard for this. And of course, as I said to you earlier, the experience that they have from being in the final last year, and you learn from them experiences and you take from it. And I'm sure Down would have learned an awful lot from the travels last year, which this Kildare team, are probably in Down's position last year. So that'd be a big worry for me now. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Jerry, you have a few of the stats there from the last 4 meetings that Down and Kildare's had.
I was looking at it earlier there, so I sort of went through I basically looked back in the championship and the league for the last 10 years, and they've been in the Christy Ring most of the years together, and they haven't actually met in it, as far as I could see. And they've met in the league, and it's they've won two games each. One of them Down won in Newbridge in 2010. Kildare won in Newbridge in 2015, but then the more sort of recent ties, Kildare won in Newbridge in 2019, March 2019, and then in March this year, Down won in Castlewellan. So, but they've generally been quite tight. The last one there was 2 points, and obviously from Down, I'll look at that and take the positives from having won that match. But at the same time, Kildare will look at it and think, well, there's a difference in playing up in Castlewellan, which was obviously just before COVID struck, and going to Croke Park, and obviously it being a final, both teams will both teams have already, achieved what they set out to do, by getting promotion to the Joe McDonagh Cup. But at the end of the day, there's a trophy to be won, and it's nice getting promoted, but it's even nicer getting promoted with the trophy. So it looks like two well balanced teams, and unfortunately, just sort of the way the nature with the tiered competitions is, it's not getting as much publicity as it should, and I suppose that's why we're all here tonight. But certainly, I think it's going to be a good game, and two teams that I don't think there's very much between them at all.
Tom, you've played for Kildare for a long, long time. You've represented Leinster. If you were the manager of Kildare on Sunday, how would you be stopping this down forward line?
Yeah, that's the worry for Kildare. Like, Down have a really strong full forward line, especially the two stands there, and the worry I'd have for Kildare is, like, John Dordan's not getting any younger. He had a very good game against Roscommon, and I'm sure Down will try and isolate John on the team. He's 34 now and has a great servant for Kildare. I'd say David Herty will probably, Brian Byrne plays out midfield. I'd say Paul Divley will stay around the middle and centre half back line, and Ryan Boran might sit back. So I'd say Kildare will try and get as much ball in the middle of the field and stop that quick ball going into the down full forward line. And I suppose Kildare will then try and get it up as quick as they can to Jack Sheridan, who thrives on goals. Jack just loves getting a goal, so he thrives in getting goals as well. So I suppose both teams, I think it'll be one basically who gets the quickest ball and the most ball into the full forward lines. Really, I think that's where it's going to be won. Both teams like to score goals, and Kildare normally win when they score goals, and same at Down.
Conor, this, as many thoughts would be, in the last few years the Down team has evolved. It's not just the usual three teams from the Ards with the representatives. You've now representatives from Leitrim, Newry, Breda. This new Down team seem to have evolved, and there's a lot more character in them. Like 2 years ago, if you had been telling me they were playing Offaly in a Christy Ring semi-final, you wouldn't have given them much hope.
Yeah, look, the backbone of the team has probably been the same. The last few years, Ronan Sheehan's taken over there. Michael Blair with him, and a couple other sort of selectors, trainers, etc. Most of them fellas come up through the younger development squads. As the players developed, they also moved with them. Took the county minors for a couple of years as well, without any major success, I suppose. But it was always about bringing players through. And definitely the three games Down have played so far, they probably wouldn't have won any of the three of them. Maybe even in March time. Never mind last year or the year before. They've added several players to the squad, from the Ards and outside the Ards. Again, the Ards is obviously the stronghold of Ireland and Down, but you've Donald Hughes has come onto the panel from Breda. Roland Costello's also from Breda, who has started the last few games. The two lads from Leitrim then you're talking about as well. Pierce Oak playing centre forward, and young Oisin McManus as well has been on. And Paul Sheehan now back after a year out with a cruciate from Shamrocks. There's other non-Ards players as well there. There's boys from Carryduff. There's fellas from Breda. So yeah, club championship this year was a good success. It got a lot of them clubs we're talking about there, the Ards clubs in Breda, 6-7 games. And we didn't actually get an opportunity to play the junior and intermediate championship in Down this year because of they're all dual clubs, and it would have been a crossover, and then COVID hit. So them lads are probably coming in. There was no training with their clubs around. The lads that we're talking about there are coming in a wee bit fresher as well, and you can see it in their play. How has the team developed the last year? Probably the additions to the squad since March time have helped running tremendously. Michael Hughes is back at cornerback. Barry Traynor, who was probably the man of the match in the county final last year, has come into the half-back line. And Donald Hughes, I'm talking about, has moved into the half-forward line. Or sort of the two lads I'm saying there, the half-back and half-forward, big physical players. And Michael Hughes obviously played county hurling for 6-7 years before that. Had a lot of other commitments this year. Was getting married, was building a house, was doing a load of stuff, which actually due to COVID didn't all happen, and he opted back into the panel after championship time there. So the team has evolved. They're definitely, the character in them's a lot better. They wouldn't have got over Derry, never mind got over Offaly 12 months ago, and it seems to be a different setup now. So hopefully from our point of view that pushes on into Sunday. But listen, it's going to be a 50-50 battle. I was at the game and game was in Leitrim there in the National League outside Castlewellan. Look, it was last 5 minutes. Kildare hit the front, I think maybe with 5-6 minutes to go, and then from my memory, Connor Woods launched a free from about 100 yards, and that inspired Down for a couple of points, and they ended up winning by 2 points just when the final whistle went.
Watching most of the games this year, Down seem to be very, very good at executing them frees. Will Kildare have an option not to get away frees? Adrian, what do you think? Like, watching McManus is 145, I think, from memory. It's a fair scoring in a championship that's not even 2 months old.
You're up around Tom Cruise standard there, Ari. It's free taking. Yeah, listen, I suppose you're probably looking for your free taker. You're trying to put them down for 8 or 10 points a game, all going well, and I suppose from Kildare's side, Jack Sheridan and Brian Byrne have kind of been, looking after that element of Kildare's game. Look, they've been doing all right, they've been putting up high scores, and especially the last day. But I suppose I'd say our guys, the scoring has come from, a wider range of players as opposed to maybe just, 1 or 2 guys. So from that side of it, I think we might have a small advantage. But Tom hit the nail on the head there. I think looking at our full forward line, I think there's goals to be got there. And if them lads can get the right type of ball in there, I think they can give Down a lot of problems. But vice versa, we've the same issue down the far end with our full back line and Down's full forward line. So I say just whatever team gets the best ball into the forwards, the quickest and the sharpest. I think goals will win this game. Look at it, it's winter hurling. We put up a massive scoreline the last day, which if Tipperary or Kilkenny put it up, you wouldn't be surprised. But in Christy Ring standards and winter hurling, it was a serious score. But again, I think that kind of is to our disadvantage on Sunday. As I said, I'd just be worried the lads, even though it's a final, they might be a little bit complacent.
Yeah, complacency. I can't see complacency coming into Kildare, knowing their manager, knowing their backroom team. They're going to be looking at Down. The question is, I wonder if they practice penalties yet. Could we see the penalty shootout in Croke Park?
Well, there you go. it was the first there last week, and it might be a second. And I suppose when you were 2 goals down, facing into Offaly, you probably had 1 foot in the car heading home. Things can change very quickly, and as I said, it's that sort of year. Anything can happen. So nothing that surprised me at this stage.
Conor, you were on the microphone last Sunday. I have to say you done a great job there. You kept all of us on the edge of our seats.
Oh yeah,
Stephen Keith. He's coming from the bloodline of goalkeepers, I suppose, but he wrote his own history last week.
Okay, look, Stephen's been living in his dad's Stephen must be 30 now, to be honest. He's living in his dad's shadows since he was 10, and like Noel Keith was the legendary goalkeeper for Down in Ulster here. Like he was, Noel was a super keeper at the time when Sean McGuinness was there, and Graham Clark in turn then was sub keeper to Noel. And then Stephen Keith was then sub keeper to Graham. So between the three of them, they've been in nets for the guts of probably 35 years for Down. Stephen, fair play to Stephen. Stephen's one of the I'll say the old boys in the squad. Listen, there was a few years there it wasn't too attractive to play for Down. There's a few boys opted out, and for different reasons. Some of them puny enough reasons, to be honest. Took the county a couple of years recovering from that sort of stuff. But Stephen stayed there the whole time, was loyal, never jumped ship, as I'll say, at any stage. So delighted to see him actually captain the team this year. I'm delighted to see him number one, saving the last 3 penalties last week. He made 2 cracker saves in them, and then to stand up and hit the last one himself, and to strike it the way he did, and it was a great occasion. Same as everything else this year. It's just a pity that there wasn't, I wouldn't say 40,000 because we wouldn't have got that, but it's a pity there wasn't 1,000 or 2 in Park Esler from both counties to see what turned out to be a great game and a momentous penalty shootout, because when the final whistle went, we didn't even know what was happening. We didn't know if it was 65s, we didn't know if it was penalties or what it was, and we sort of had to seek a bit from the commentary position. We had to seek a bit of guidance. But look, it was super. 565s. Listen, if you've seen it again this Sunday, it was I would still say it'd be very, very good to watch again this Sunday. Obviously could have went either way, and Offaly will feel hard done by. But listen, the down fellas in fairness stood up when it counted, and centre back and full back taking 2 of the penalties as well. So look, if you'd been sitting there 2-0 down, your full back, your centre back, and your goalkeeper were your last 3 penalty takers. So
you wouldn't be too hopeful.
There's certainly, you wouldn't be too hopeful, you would think, but they certainly stood up and were counted, the 3 lads. So fair play to the 3 of them.
Tom, Croke Park can be a lonely enough place. It's even more lonely if there's nobody in it.
Well, yeah, I mentioned that to you today, but in fairness, and no disrespect, but when you're playing with Kildare and Down, you don't have many supporters at your matches. So and it's a great leveler in a way. Like, you're watching Limerick and Cork and all these on TV, and there's no one at the matches, and you're losing the atmosphere. But when people used to see Christy Ring finals on before, and very few people at it, they were giving out there was no atmosphere, and they wouldn't maybe watch it. But we're all sitting down watching the bigger counties playing now, and we're delighted to watch it. So it should be no different than the Christy Ring final. That I think both teams, it won't bother them at all. It's just nice if you do win that your family are there to see your family and your local club mates and your supporters. That's the only thing I feel sorry for. It would have been great to go up there this week as hurling people supporting your county rather than maybe supporting your football team. And that's the only down part of it. But I suppose a great thing for the players this weekend is to be playing in Croke Park on the anniversary of 1920, Bloody Sunday. That's a great thing for them players to be able to bring back. I know the anniversary is tomorrow, but the lads are playing the same weekend, and it's a privilege to be able to play on that day, so that'll be always there. Good thing now with YouTube and TV, the matches will be always there, so for people to see. But I don't think it's going to affect them at all. I think the pitch is going to suit both teams. Again, it's about who's going to perform the best on the day. I'm just worried, as Adrian said, Roscommon working brilliant last week. So where does that leave Kildare? Have Down won Rollern last week. Is it going to take much out of the team? We don't know. So I suppose we won't really know till Sunday. Kildare started very poorly against Roscommon, I thought. And the worry I had for them, if it happens this Sunday, they will suffer that Kildare's forwards working hard enough, get the ball off the Roscommon backs. And if that happens against Down in Croke Park, where there's more space, we will concede a lot of scores. That's the worry I have, basically. If Kildare's forwards don't work hard and track back, get the hooks and blocks in, we'll be in trouble because Down will create a lot of chances.
What's your thoughts there, Conor, from a Down perspective?
Yeah, look.
Seriously, no.
Well, regarding the crowd and the atmosphere, listen, they could open 2 sections on Sunday and it would hold. We would still be able to socially distance in it, I would imagine, the very best. But I take your point, yes, of you watch the Munster finals and you watch the Leinster games or whatever so far, and the atmosphere has been lacking. Sometimes it's just like a training game, to be honest. The only thing missing is the bibs. It's hit out. There's 2 hand passes, the ball's over the bar, and that's the way it's been. And there's been very, very little atmosphere. Other couple of points there too. That would be what you mentioned there about the fitness. And Down having a big game last week, that would worry me slightly heading into the last 20 minutes in the game on Sunday. I commentated at the Down and the Derry and Offaly game the week before, and it was a cruise control for Offaly. If you know what I mean, they scored 32 points, and Derry sort of paid them a bit much respect. I would imagine if Derry had to play that game, they would different. If Derry had to play that game again, they would probably just go at them, the way Down did. But before the final whistle last week, David Nally was off with cramp, the midfielder for Offaly, and Owen Cahill went off as well for cramp. And they were cramping up. The Down guys were going like racehorses at that stage, you know what I mean? And I would be wondering, like, what a really heavy game last week on Park Esther, which can be a wet enough surface. I wonder if it's really tight going down the stretch here. I wonder how it'll work if they're playing another game on a big pitch in Croke Park this week. That would be a wee slight worry, probably, just in case, because, like, I know it's all right to say, Kildare had a handy enough win against Roscommon. Yeah, look, they still have to put the yards in and get the ball over the bar, but I think mentally it probably took a lot of the Down fellas too. There was subs coming on, there was subs going off. There's people coming on and off a couple of times, and then when it went to extra time, the same thing happening. So that would be a wee worry if it is tight, neck and neck, getting into the last 5 minutes, that some of the Down legs may sort of tire a wee bit sooner,
I would think Tony Austin will maybe have different thoughts on that, with what he's done this year.
Yeah, look, hopefully the fitness hasn't been a problem. That they have looked the fitter team in nearly every game they've played, and I think there's maybe one injury. There's been no muscle injuries or nobody pulling up or anything so far in any of the games. So touch wood, that sort of continues,
So Adrian, back to you. What would you like to be there on Sunday?
I suppose. Yeah, in your head you'd like to be there after about 5 minutes. You'll probably be sick of it, but yeah, look, there were great days when you did get up there, and it didn't happen too often, and I suppose they do stand out when you look back at them. So the lads that are playing there tomorrow will treasure it, I'm sure, and you have a few lads there that played in 18 as well, which will be to the fore, hopefully, So, as I said, when you're playing hurling with Kildare, you don't get up to Croke Park too often. So, of course, any day you get up there, you'd look forward to it and enjoy it as best you can, even though, I suppose you'd have the butterflies and maybe not sleep great the night before. But, yeah, look, when you look back, you definitely remember the days, win, lose or draw. But obviously, if you win, they're more enjoyable,
Yeah. Tom, you'll have no bother sleeping tomorrow night, I wouldn't think. So you'll be happy enough in the cot. So
don't be bothering me.
Yeah, you played in more than big games than most for Kildare. You've represented the county in Leinster for a Railway Cup at one point. What would go through the Kildare boys' head on Saturday night, leading up to possibly the biggest game they've had in the last few years?
Yeah, like everyone, you can have good days and bad days in Croke Park. I've had bad days in Croke Park too, and Adrian got me out of a hobble a few times there. But I think the only worry you have for Kildare is Kildare won in 2018, and there was 16 of that squad who are not there tomorrow, which is only 2 years ago. They have a lot of newer fellas playing. There's only 5 of the team that played in 2018, believe it or not, and only 1 defender. So that's a big turn.
And we also read that there's a dual player playing as well.
Well, yes. Yeah. David Slattery, the footballer playing. He opted out of the football panel this year, retired, and he's playing hurling this year. I think Croke Park will suit him. He's very fast and very strong. And obviously, he's after doing probably 5 years training with the footballers, and a physically different level. And he is in the fitness game himself. That's his job, his own fitness and PT training set up himself. So I think Croke Park will suit him. And if he gets the ball one-on-one near the goal, there's not too many lads who can hold him up. The only thing lacking for him is he hasn't played a lot of hurling over the last few years at that level. So, swings and roundabouts, I suppose. But Kildare will be hoping that if he gets a chance, he will go straight for the goal and maybe either create a goal or score himself. But going back to the original question, I think the players should sleep reasonably well. Like, while there might be TV cameras, there's no big crowds there, so you don't have that pressure. Some of the lads is probably it's their first final with Kildare at this level, so that could be a worry. But I imagine the majority of the Down team were there last year, so as Adrian highlighted earlier, that could be. I think Kildare need a good start more so than Down, and if Kildare get a good start, they'll grow in confidence, and hopefully see it out. But definitely, it's going to be hard to call it. It's really tough. I just hope that Kildare. I hope both teams perform on the day and we get a really good game. I think that's what will happen, and don't rule out a draw. I don't know what the price is. Adrian might have that there, but it might be worth might be worth €5 for the draw.
17-2 and Down are favourites.
Okay.
We'll be hoping for. Well, there will be a winner in either case. There will be a result on Sunday. Conor, Roland Sheehan is 100 years, or Christy Ring's 100 years old this year. He's a proud Cork man as well as a proud Down man. He'll be wanting to get the job finished this time instead of leaving it half done.
Yeah, look, Ronan's father's a Cork man. Yeah, he's his roots down in Cork. He's very fond of what goes on down there. He keeps a close eye on things as well. He had the Rock O'Sullivan in with the county squad last year as well, giving him a bit of a hand. He was up, done a lot of sessions, was on the sideline for I think all the Christy Ring games as well. Only for the fact that he got involved with the Cork setup himself this year, he would have been he'd have been involved again this year. So yeah, look, Roland talks about that sort of stuff a lot. His roots and his GA roots and his hurling roots in Cork, and the fact that it's Christy Ring's it would have been Christy Ring's 100th birthday this year, and the Bloody Sunday. All that means a lot of stuff to Ronan especially, and I suppose he tries to pass the emphasis of that onto the squad. So he'll certainly be looking to lift the trophy on the 100th anniversary of Christy Ring's birth. There's no question about that. He definitely will.
Gerry, you've covered a lot of stuff recently during lockdown and hurling. What's your thoughts for Sunday?
I genuinely think that there's really nothing between the two teams. I've been sort of even you try to look at sort of like different matches, different results, and it feels to me like obviously it looks a bit like Kildare have kind of maybe won their games a bit handier, but at the same time I think Down have played maybe the harder teams. So from that perspective, it looks well balanced. Obviously, Tom was mentioning about the amount of changes that there's been in the Kildare panel, which I think it can work two ways. So sometimes if the young lads come in and they can be a bit more, if they come out and they're fearless, and they come out with the right attitude. But I think it might be different if there was a big crowd. If if this game was being played before an All-Ireland quarter-final or semi-final, and there was a big crowd there, and it might be a change. But I think the two teams will come out firing, and I genuinely, you're talking about penalties and the likes. It could honestly go that way. I think 2 points. Personally, just from an Ulster perspective, I would maybe side way down slightly. But that's more just what I would like to happen. But at the end of the day, I've no issues with Kildare. They've been doing good work. I read some interviews earlier with was it Brian Byrne? It was, yes. He was on the GAA.ie, and he was talking about Kildare filling in the gaps. He was talking about sort of under 20, under 21. And he felt that they needed to work harder at that level. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm just a fan of the game of hurling. And to me, if Down win and Kildare, whoever wins, they're both in the Joe McDonagh and I want them to push on in the Joe McDonagh and up the standards for themselves and for the game of hurling. Because to me, honestly, I don't think there's a better game in the world. Like, you know, the speed, obviously, the way it's been this year without the fans has been interesting, because I think some of the speed of the play and then the fervour that generates in the stands, you know, it's just so passionate and such a passionate game, and it is interesting watching it without the fans. But you know, the players on the pitch ultimately will decide the game, and I'll go a point either way. I'm not going to commit, but I think there'll be a point, maybe 2 points in it most.
Tom, call the game on Sunday. Jerry's sitting there, he's sitting on the fence a wee bit there. We're not here to
I think if
defense.
If Kildare perform, they'll win. That was the same for Down, but I think if Kildare perform, they'll win. David Herity and his good background team with him there. They've done a lot of good work with the lads. I happened to meet John Dordan 2 weeks ago in my home club, and he said they've come out with the lockdown with a far balanced and better attitude before the start of the lockdown. So, and that was before they played. I think that was before they played Wicklow, actually. So I think just Kildare have great momentum. So have Down, but maybe I'm putting my Kildare hat on. But I'll go with Kildare if they perform.
Adrian, you're probably a captain more times than enough for Kildare. Call it there for Sunday.
We didn't win often enough. Yeah, look at coming into this conversation, I still would have had Down ahead there, you know, from the fact that tough game. But you know, listen to Conor's comments there, and what went on there last week, and the pitch and the extra time and the whole lot. You know, he probably has a valid point. And you look at some of the, you know, the games there over the years where they had a weak turnaround, and there wasn't too many of them that won in both hurling or football. So, you know, I suppose I didn't take a view on that until Conor mentioned it. So that'd be a big negative now for Down, I suppose, which probably brings Kildare back into it slightly. So look at again, I suppose being from Kildare, you'd be hoping and wishing that first and foremost, it's a great game, and probably, you know, Kildare win by a point. The worrying thing, I suppose, for me, looking at it, you know, from a global view in the county, I could probably pick 5 or 6 fellas that I'd have starting on that team tomorrow that are not there, and that'd be a big worry for me. You know, these guys be battle hardened, and you know, you'd like to be going to war with them. You know, some of these other guys, they're younger, they haven't been there, maybe they're more hungrier, but that just, you know, as I said, it's a worry. We probably haven't our best team out. You know, if you want to be critical and pick your 10 or 15 best players in the county, that's probably not them. But in saying that, that's not taking anything away from them. You know, they've done the work, they've turned up and they've beaten what's in front of them. So, you know, they deserve to be there. So just on that, you know, on that instance, I probably have Down just ahead. You know, as I said, the experience from last year. And I'm sure they won't want to make the same mistakes they made last year, this year, you know. So we say Down by 3 points.
Oof, Kildare man calls Down. Conor, even though that you're on the county board, I know you're probably not going to go against Down, but give me your thoughts then. You're going to have to call it one way or the other.
Look, there's not going to be much in it. You know, I'm not going to sit on the fence and tell you there's not going to be much in it, and it can go either way. Look, but all them things are true. After listening to sort of Tom as well tonight a wee bit there, like, you know, Kildare come out of the lockdown a wee bit more focused and a bit better and performing better. Like that, the same definitely can be said for Down. One player I forgot to mention earlier on when I was talking about the additions to the squad is Dahi Sands, the younger brother. Dahi was in New York on a year's placement, or maybe slightly longer in a year, and obviously with everything that happened, Dahi got home time for the summer. He got home for his club championship, which he played very, very well in, and he came up with a goal in extra time for Down last week again. Owen got a goal in ordinary time, Dahi got a goal in extra time. Another massive addition to the squad. So the momentum in the squad is definitely there. You know, point that Adrian made there, that the point that you made about not maybe on paper the 15 best players playing for the county, that's the way Down have been for several years. This year there might be one that's not there who probably could be there. There's one lad injured, Danny Toner, who would be the marquee forward in Down. Danny's done a cruciate there in the first game in the club championship, so he's gone for the year. Apart from that, Down are probably as close to being full strength as they have been for 5-6 years. So if we are beaten Sunday, there'll not be too many people saying, "Oh, if he had been there, or if he had been there." That there's not, you know, they can't really play that card. I don't think anyway. You know, and strangely enough, with 15 minutes to go, if you've seen that in last week's game, Gerard, 15 minutes to go, Down were probably stronger on paper than they were on the starting team. You know, with a couple of lads, I wouldn't say playing out of position, but playing in different positions. And there was a couple of changes made with 15 minutes to go, a couple of positional swaps, and Down actually finished with young Phelim Savage, who Gary Savage used to play. I'm sure you know plenty of games, and Tom as well. You know, Gary Savage, Gaza played centre back for Ballycran, for Down, for Ulster for years there. He's two young fellas in the team there. Liam playing wing half. Back there, number 7, and Phelim, who's a fantastic midfielder. He'll not be starting on Sunday, I don't think. He didn't start the semi-final, but certainly come on the midfield and made a difference. Absolutely stick work, magician, fantastic. So natural, thinks about nothing, just it all happens to him, and he can take points from 60, 70, 80 yards as well. So he'll finish in midfield. I don't know where that will allow the likes of John McManus maybe to start in the midfield. He might start corner back, I don't know. He can certainly play the two of them positions. And Paul Sheehan has come off the bench the last couple of. Down seem to start with Oisín McManus, and Oisín's a great free taker. Chips in from play, yeah, and then he usually has went off maybe about the 40-45 minute mark, and Paul Sheehan has come on, and I think he got 3 points against Derry in the last 5-10 minutes, and he maybe finished with 4 to 5 from frees last week as well. So I think Down are in a reasonable position. As I say, the tiredness might be the only thing that might affect that. But look, the only problem for Down is if they think last week was the final. Now, Connor Woods and Keelan Taggart and Stephen Keith won't think that, because they've had enough disappointments in Park Esther and Croke Park over the years. But some of the younger lads, in the back of their mind, they may think, God, we beat Offaly here. That's us. We're home and hose. We're going down here to lift the trophy in the steps of the Hogan Stand or out on the pitch as it may be this week. And if they do think that, that's my only wee bit of complacency. I'm certainly not underestimating Kildare in any way, but I think Down have improved considerably, and they probably, in my opinion, Down should have enough to get over the line. Could be wrong, but I would be, I'd be going down. Last year against Meath, it was a 1 in 10 chance for me to beat Meath last year. It was too early for a lot of the lads. This year, it shouldn't be too early, and to be honest with you, I think they should have a great chance of winning the game on Sunday. So I'll go for Down on Sunday. I don't know about how many, depending, goals win games, as Adrian said earlier on there, and I could see Down getting hopefully a few goals on Sunday.
The other thing I was going to mention is both you lads have played in this competition. The competition is getting diluted and diluted even more every year. Like, there doesn't seem to be any appetite to promote it. What do you think the GA should be doing to promote this competition for the lower tier?
I think there's evidence there that you nearly bring the Joe McDonagh into a bigger competition, and you bring the top few teams from the Joe McDonagh or the Christy Ring into the Joe McDonagh, and the other teams back. Condense it a bit more. Basically, there's 4 tiers there now, 7 and 4. Come back to 3 really, and then try and promote it more. Obviously, this year is a bit of a disaster in a way that you take last weekend, all the matches that were on last weekend. So there was no room really. They were never going to promote Christy Ring last weekend on the Sunday game or on radio because there were so many other matches on. I think if you have a normal calendar year, you might be able to promote it more. and maybe get some clips on TV and that. But as I've said before, there's no need to be playing Tipperary minors or Cork minors before the big games anymore. Them fellas, will get to Croke Park or will get their day out. I think they should be playing some of the Joe McDonagh matches before the Munster matches or the Leinster matches. I think that's the way to do it. And it's great this week to see on social media the schools, in Down and Kildare promoting both teams this weekend. But I think that's the way to play the Joe McDonagh matches before the bigger games and maybe open up to Joe McDonagh. There's no reason why Kildare, Meath, Down cannot compete with Antrim and Westmeath and Kerry. And they can. They really can if they get everyone out and everyone buying into it. So Down proved it last week, beating Offaly. And as Conor obviously mentioned, they have probably 95 or 96% of the players who should be in there. So if every county can get 96 or 97% of the players playing for their county and committed, it's far better for hurling. And I think getting into Joe McDonagh, Kildare will have to build on it, Down will have to build on it. But Kildare won't progress next year unless they get more of the players in. That's just my opinion on it anyway.
I think Kildare is going to need a bit more strength and depth this year in the Joe McDonagh.
Yeah, I think they will. But that's up to club players and commit at the end of the day. And if Kildare are playing Offaly tomorrow, people in Kildare might give them hope. There's a different mentality because they're playing Down. And even though I feel Down are not getting the credit they deserve last week, it was all about Offaly. Offaly didn't win. Offaly didn't do this, that, or the other. Down won the match at the end of the day.
Well, Offaly this year has got another year in the Joe McDonagh, the Christy Ring, because they got demoted last year. They'll be probably out this year in the league to prove a point, or next year, sorry.
Yeah.
It is what it is with Offaly. They're in a bad place, and unfortunately, it's only Offaly can get themselves out of that place. Down in Kildare will not be worrying about that because they're looking at the Joe McDonagh for next season anyway. Both of them are in it. I think it'll hopefully strengthen the Joe McDonagh a bit more and make it a bit more interesting. But obviously, we're not here to talk about the Joe McDonagh. We're wanting to see who's going to win on Sunday. Down has got a vote there from Conor. Adrian was sort of halfway with Down. Tom was with Kildare. Gerry, what are you thinking? You've sort of went with Down as well.
Aye, yeah.
You were sort of not knowing. I think I'm going to call this. I'm going to say, I think the firepower Down possesses at the moment with Austin McManus, the two Sanses. We never mentioned Tim Prenter there on the wing, who's an absolute flying machine. Barry Traynor at the back, Stephen Keith in nets, and CT in full back. I can't, to be honest, I can't see beyond Down. I can see if they get complacent, it'd be a very, very long day at the office. But hopefully Ronan has their mindset straight, and he'll be wanting to do it as a Cork man on the 100th year of Christy Ring's birth. Also, the Bloody Sunday centenary, I can't, I would say Down's going to do it now. But I'm hoping that hurling's going to win, and I hope that we don't see any silliness that we've seen before. Not from Kildare, but Down's a wee bit of silliness here and there. But I think now I would call it for Down for Sunday. That's us, boys.
Okay.
Tom and Adrian, I hope now that he'll be turning out in Abbottstown next year, because just look like he's could do a wee bit of winter fat taking off his. The over 40s to do it. The over 40s are could be doing with his. Kildare needs to get the social hurling team together there and get themselves up. I think it's spreading throughout the country there, so I hope the two boys there will pioneer it in Kildare now. I think these are the only boys that are missing there, so come on, we need to get the social hurling coming out of you.
Yeah.
Get Paddy really back over there from Sweden. He's supposed to be here tonight.
It's
Unfortunately-
Dublin Airport now.
Unfortunately, Graham couldn't make it. He sent us in his apologies, and also Mickey McCulloch, who was involved with Ballyboden this year, was supposed to come on, and he had a family commitments. So thanks very much, boys. Thanks for your time, and maybe do a wee review on Monday morning and see what happens. Okay.
No
Okay.
bother, Gerard.
Sure.
Thanks,
Go
lads.
get it.
Cheers, boys.